I'm waiting for you to wake up. And you know me, I overweight. I overweight because I get nervous otherwise. And I'm wondering what's going on. Are they going to mess with me? Is everything going to be okay? Yeah. Things are looking pretty. Everything's looking right. But let's just make absolutely sure. Because you know me, I fight tech and I try to make sure I win. And that's what I do. It looks like we're live, but I still haven't seen myself, and I need to wait until I see myself, which I just did. Yes. Brilliant. Awesome. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good future. If you're in the future in Australia or wherever, I hope the future's great. I hope we figured out the climate. I really hope I hope we just figured it out and everything's fine. That's what I hope. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules. I recommend the raspberry pecan. And you can get their tea wholesale right now because of the pandemic. It's amazing tea. They supply the tea to Get Your News On with Ron. So please check them out. It's run by a lefty and friend of the show, Jeffrey. ZT.com, ZHITEA.com, and our friends over at Triage Oil, TRIAGE oil.com. They make topical pain oil that you rub on your body, and it works wonders. Thank you so much for the recent care package, TriageOil.com. You guys know that I use the oil on my neck, and it has helped my neck more than anything else ever has in the past, and that's not an embellishment. That is the truth. I was in a pretty bad car accident in 2013. I don't think my neck will ever quite be the same, but this oil has done a lot for it. So triageoil.com, check them out. And you might be wondering, Ron, what about the type of oil you ingest? You got me covered? I sure do. Rare Naturals, CBD.com. That's all natural CBD oil. You can put it under your tongue. You can put some in your drink. That's the way I like to do it. It's great after a workout. It's great if you feel a headache coming on. It's great if you're just looking to relax. Maybe you're looking to kind of have an experience. Here's a sentence I said yesterday. Lucy, my cat, Lucy, we're going to feed you early because me and mommy are going to get stoned and watch The Crow. You could also do that with CBD oil. It's a good time. So check that out, rarenaturalscbd.com. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout, Lucy. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout, and you get 30% off your order. If you want to stack up on CBD oil, best way to do it because you can get 30% off your order using the promo code Lucy at checkout. All right, and that's rarenaturalcbd.com with an S. Boom. I got very excited for my guest today. You guys know her. She's been on the show before. She is one third of the Convo couch because they are a power trio. And she has been doing amazing work on the ground. They've been covering protest after protest after protest, and they're still in South Florida because they were covering what went on there yesterday in regards to Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Jen Perlman. So we're going to talk about this. Please welcome back to the show, Fiorella Isabel from the Convo Couch. What's up, Fiorella?
Hey, Ron. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. There's a lot to be said.
I know.
These days, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I told everybody yesterday that you were coming on the show, and I said, we might be celebrating, we might not be, but it's going to be a show, and we're going to have a lot to say one way or another. And we're not celebrating, but we're having a show. So, well, let's just jump right into it. So you guys, how long have you been in South Florida now?
All right, so we got here. When did we get here? We got here Monday, and we have been we were following the Jen Perlman race against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It's Broward County, but the way they cut the district, unfortunately for her, it's also parts of Dade County. So there's two different counties, two different voting machine systems, and it's kind of like expected. Because Debbie has this tradition now that we're also happy about where she rigs races. So it was kind of expected that she was going to pull some things. But what we saw was just another reiteration of how corrupt this party is and how, because they're never held accountable, they get away with it, especially in a state like Florida where you don't have the third-party presence. You really don't have an independent presence. And a lot of people, like Tim Canova ran before, in 2016 and in 2018. And he then became an independent because he realized how corrupt it was. However, the other side of the coin is it's really difficult to win on an outside ticket in Florida. I mean, this isn't Miami that mostly. This is like Fort Lauderdale, like parts of the part of Florida that is not necessarily as heavily minority oriented. And we were kind of expecting Debbie to do something, but what we saw yesterday was just really awful. So in particular, when we were interviewing the volunteers, interviewing Jen, we eventually got to this polling location that was at a residential area. So it was like you had to go through a gate to go vote, which, first of all, I don't know how that's possible, and I don't know how that makes sense, but you had to go through a security gate to go vote to your polling center. And when we went through the first time, we had all our media credentials and stuff, and they said, no, absolutely no media. We're being told that there's no media allowed in here. And we fought back. We're like, no, we're media. Here's this, here's that. There's a statue, blah, blah, blah. They were like, we don't care about the statue. I'm being told by somebody on the phone that you can't go in. So
we have nothing to hide.
No, they have nothing to hide.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, doing God knows what with the ballots.
And so Johnny insisted, like, no, let's find another way in, right? So we go around and try to find another way in this location. And we had been visiting locations throughout the day, like I said, but this one in particular, we were kind of like, I wonder why they're not allowing media in. And so we went the other way, we got in, but we took off our press badges because we wanted to pretend we were like voters. We're like, oh, we're going to vote. And they were like, okay, go right in. So that's how we got in. So we didn't have our press badges, and we pull up to the area where all the volunteers are for the various candidates that are there. And of course, none other than Debbie Wasserman Schultz walks right up to the car, and you guys talked about it yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
we did a video on it. I got a kick out of it. I mean, Pasta sounded like he was just like, "Oh, how are you? Good luck today."
She's like Tom Perez. Like, you can never get a hold of her. You don't ever know where she is. So when we saw her, we were like, "What the hell?" And if you just saw her and you didn't know who she was, you think she was the nicest little lady, like, that wouldn't hurt a fly. And she's like, hi. And Pasta's like, why are you here? And I'm like, come on, Pasta. Like, he kind of like froze. And I was just laughing in the background.
Well, were you guys in,
but
I couldn't hear you laugh, but were you guys in like, because I mean, I saw some other pictures and you guys had like Jen Perlman shirts on and stuff. Did you have that on at the time in the car? Like were you guys in Jen gear or?
No. I never had a Jen Perlman shirt on. No.
Johnny did though, didn't he?
I don't think so.
I thought he did. So. All right, maybe I'm thinking I might be confused with something else. I was just curious if you guys like had Jen stuff on when you saw her or not. Okay.
No.
Okay.
We were in a Prius. Maybe that's why she came in. But that's it. That's all we had. We just had a Prius. And
have you paid that Prius off? Do you need a payday loan? I can help you.
It was just so surreal because she's usually running away from press. So she didn't know we were press. And like, I wanted to say like, you're the reason we have Trump so bad. Like, like, I hate you, like, and anyway, so we realized that the reason they didn't let media in was because she was at that location. So that was the first thing that happened, because they absolutely had cops there. They weren't allowing media in. They were protecting her. And then she went into a black car and like was whisked away somewhere. But it was really interesting. And the volunteers told us that she went there because she was getting scared because there was so many young volunteers for Jen Perlman. And as you know, she physically attacked one of her volunteers. And I interviewed that volunteer. It's a 16-year-old girl, number one.
Yes, which, you know what? The other side of that is that's awesome. that 16-year-old is doing that. I mean, that's awesome. That 16-year-old is out there volunteering. She's a climate activist. She's awesome. I mean, that's freaking awesome. And what are your thoughts on, because I've talked about this because of that, because we did that story on Monday on this show. Mm-hmm. Do you think 16-year-olds should be able to vote?
I do.
I do
like
too.
what you can enlist in the army, right? You can take a shot, but you can't take a shot, but you can take a bullet. Is that kind of mentality? It's like we're sending these
Yeah.
kids out ready to fight, but they can't vote and they can't, like
Well, I
it's
think
ridiculous.
18's army, isn't it? It's 18,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like
But
you can they can send you to war, but you can't order a drink.
right.
And you can't vote until you're 18. So it's like you don't get a say in the people who are going to send you to war on your 18th birthday.
Right.
That's
And
the freaking issue. And if you can drive a car, you can cast a ballot.
yeah, and I think 16-year-olds are different than maybe 16-year-olds before.
Sure.
I don't know if you agree with that, but like they know a lot more. Like my sister's 17 and she's been protesting now. She's getting more aware of things at an earlier age than maybe our generation did. Because kind of they have to. They're like they don't have a choice. I mean, they're seeing impending climate doom, and they're seeing the failure of the government, and they've witnessed. Most of them have been alive to see two of the largest transfers of wealth from the poor to the elites, and so they're like obviously not going to ignore that. I mean, there's a point where they're going to be like, wait a minute, why is this happening right now? Right. And it's nice to see that in Jen's race, like I saw so many young people. So that was a positive.
They're totally engaged because they have to be, because they're like, we want a planet. Yeah. We want a planet to grow old on. So we are paying attention and we're engaged. And yeah, I mean, I think the Zoomers really give me hope. I mean, I think there's a lot of millennials doing great things. I mean, every generation has people doing great things. I mean, the boomers have people who have been peace activists their entire freaking lives who are still showing up and refuse to give up, So every generation has, great people and not so great people. That's how the world works. But, the Zoomers in particular, like I kind of, as a millennial, I kind of feel like, you know what? I look at our bench and I see people like Joe Kennedy and Pete Buttigieg, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should just hand off our time to the Zoomers. Be like, you know what? We're going to hand you our time. We'll do other things. We'll be activists. We'll be artists. We'll be journalists. We'll do other things. And you guys can just take our spot and just keep ruling a little while longer because y'all got it figured out.
Yeah. And I just I just see that the future is with them, obviously,
Yeah, totally.
But after that whole situation happened with that, we were following the counting of the ballots, etc., and we were told we could go and witness them. In fact, according to a statute that literally outlines at the end of the like once the polling locations close, the public, not just press, but the public can go and witness the counting of the ballots. So we went to a location because we got word that they ran out of ballots. So people were in line waiting for ballots. And obviously they're in line and it's getting closer to 7:00. And then guess what happened? The polls closed and people were still waiting in line because they ran out of ballots.
So
and they didn't open them back up.
Where all did this happen? Like, where did they run out of ballots?
So this location was, oh God, the name escapes me. It was, I think it's called Jane. I can't remember the specific name, but we were there yesterday for like 3 hours. And it's near, if you're not familiar with Florida, it's in South Florida, but it's not Miami. It's a little bit north of that. So closer to the Fort Lauderdale area, the beach area. It was a very, very poor minority working class area, of course.
That was what motivated my question. I mean, whenever you see this happen, be it in Florida or I mean, Kentucky, we can talk about what happened recently in Kentucky. It's never in the white neighborhoods. It's never in the wealthy neighborhoods. It's always in the city centers where it tends to lean more progressive. It's always in minority neighborhoods. It's always, that's always where this stuff happens.
Right. So they always happen to run out of ballots where there was, by minorities, I mean, heavily, I saw a lot of Black people and I also saw Latino people. So like impoverished areas where you see a lot of trailers that kind of area. And of course, they ran out of the ballots. Okay, so instead of extending it, they didn't extend it. They cut it off right at 7. And Jen Perlman had tweeted, hey, like, if you're in line, stay in line, you know, the usual. And then once the polls closed, though, we were like, okay, we're going to be here to, like, witness the counting of the ballots. And Johnny and Pasta in particular went inside. And that's when they told them, oh, we're going to give you a tour. So they were waiting for a tour.
Who told them? Who said we're going to give you a tour?
The poll worker.
Okay.
One of the poll workers. So there was 2. There was a woman and a man. The man was Black. The woman, I believe, was Hispanic. And they were like, oh, yeah. She said, oh, we're going to give you a tour. And then the gentleman got on the phone, made a call, and said something. And then right after he said something, he was like, nope, sorry, we're not going to, you guys can't be here. And so that's when they were like, hey, there's a statue. Here it is. It says by law, the public is allowed to observe the counting of the ballots. And then they said, no, sorry, I'm just being told you can't be here. And so it was the same thing that happened earlier where the woman that didn't want to let us in was on a phone call. And they were like, no, you can't let them in. The same kind of like weird behavior. And they tried to stay in. It's not like they gave up. They tried to stay in, but the guy was like shoving them out. I mean, literally shoving them out. And they're like, hey,
even
they closed the door on us.
Statute. They're like, there's a statute. We're allowed to be here. It's the law.
He said he didn't care about the statute. I mean, we posted the video on Twitter, but you guys can check it out. I think it should be on my feed. I just retweeted it, actually. And, you know, they got really aggressive. And it's like, well, if you have nothing to hide, what's with people observing it, right? And so we stayed behind and we saw them transport the ballots into a truck and the ballot machines, and we were kind of following them a little bit to see what they were doing, if they were following the 2-person per car protocol, because that has to be a protocol, and it's one that Debbie has broken many times when she's been reportedly involved in that. In the last few times, as you guys I'm sure have seen what Tim Canova said about that in 2016, 2018.
So real quick, is this the video?
Yes, this is the video.
Okay. All right. So let's check it out. Here we go.
You gotta leave.
Why?
You gotta leave.
She said that's not true.
What's that?
You gotta leave.
You want me to show you the
You can't show me nothing. I just heard from the director.
Come on, let's go. Come on. Let's go. All right, well, let's go. Start walking. Let's go. Let's go. Start walking.
We're walking.
Well, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's
You don't
go.
do me like that, man.
All right.
You
You wanna call the
do
cops?
that a lot.
All right.
You don't do me like
I'll
that.
show you the rule right
You
now.
can go with your rules, but I just heard from
Come on, man.
the
Close
director.
Sir, why do you think we do this?
Close the door.
Why do you think we do this?
You told me to fuck
Frankly, I don't give a-
right now.
You don't care?
Well,
We do this because we're trying to protect the vote.
Appreciate you guys calling in.
Get out. It's bullshit.
I'm waiting for it to come out.
I turned the camera off and turned it back on like an idiot. Do you have it on the whole time?
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know why they acted like that. That was
So stupid.
No, they
At least Pasta gave us a little bit of humor relief. I mean, at least Pasta was like, I fucked up technology again. Johnny, did you get it right? Yeah, I did. That's never happened
Boomer.
before.
No, never. No. Oh my God. Yeah. But that's precisely it. And then we tried to go to another location, and it just doesn't. You're supposed to legally, first of all, normal public are supposed to, and then on top of that, we're oppressed. You heard him. He didn't care. He was like, "No, I don't care. I don't care about your rules. I don't care about anything.
Yeah,
I don't care about justice.
I don't care about the vote, even though I'm here orchestrating it." And that's, I mean, that's when it gets frustrating because, I'm always quick to be like, look, the people who, are working at the polls or volunteering at the polls, it's not like the corrupt system is not their fault. So like if you get, like if you get like a what's it called? Like the temporary ballot or the provisional ballot. Yeah. If you get one of those, don't take it out on the person who handed it to you. It's not their fault. But then when you see, for instances like this, where the person is, it's like this person doesn't know who's on their side and who isn't. Right. The citizen journalist who is trying to document what's going on for the sake of election integrity, they're on your side. not the person on the phone telling you what to do.
Right.
And if they point to a statute, you say, hey, this is a statute. This is the law. If I don't follow this, they could sue us. They could sue us. This is the freaking law. I'm going to follow the law. And you're within your right to do that.
Exactly. And so what also happened off camera was that there was a woman and she kept telling that gentleman, oh, no, they're right. They have a right to be here. And she just got like overpowered. So there was somebody trying to do the right thing.
Right.
But it didn't happen. And so when the results shortly after that, literally shortly after that incident, the New York Times called it for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So votes were still being counted. Now they were counting the vote by mail ballots first, obviously. So that's what they based it off on. But the percentages we can talk about, because I was getting reports that the people auditing some of these, because we had Debbie's people, not Debbie's people, Jen's volunteers, some of them were following the ballots and they were trying to audit like the tapes of some of the counts. So they were able to get a hold of some of those tapes to see what the results were, to actually look at the results. And one of them told me that the results were showing that the judges in the lower races that people normally don't really pay that much attention to were getting 2 to 3 times the amount of votes than her race, which is one of the bigger ones that got the most press, etc., and was also first on the ballot. So that right away in our pursuit of election integrity, we know that when you go vote, primarily most people, they don't know about judges. Like, it's like the last thing people like look up. It's really hard to find like a list of judges to vote for.
Oh, hey, I've been guilty of it myself, where I'm just like,
right.
I have no clue. And I'm at the point now where it's like, if I really have no clue, I just leave something blank.
Exactly.
And it's like, sometimes you don't even know how many things there are, to try to. So it's like, if I don't know, because I don't know, well, who am I voting for? Like, I'll just leave it blank. And so, in case there's any ambiguity here, here's Jen's tweet. We lost a battle. We did not lose the war. Thank you all. We'll be back. They did declare Debbie Wasserman Schultz the winner. So what else did you guys find?
So like I said, so the data that they saw on the tapes was showing that there were way more votes for these lower races, even though hers was the top ballot race. They were first on the ballot. When you open the ballot, you saw their race, and also Jen Perlman's name was first. It doesn't make sense that people would vote more for the judges than they would for a congressional race. That just doesn't happen statistically. And that usually means that there is some sort of fraud or inconsistency, because there should be way more. Like, we're talking 2 to 3 times the amount of people voting for judges than voting for the congressional race. And so that is really suspect. And so we followed, like I said, we followed this truck to see what they were transporting. And it was weird. The ballots were being transported in a moving truck, like a budget moving rental truck. And we were just making sure that they were doing the process correctly. We followed them to another location, and they kept stopping and had other vehicles come in. It just felt like it was entirely inconsistent.
And they've done that before.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was also happening. And in fact, like real quick here, let's give people a bit of a crash course on the county we are talking about. And let's start almost at the beginning, or at least as far back. 2000. This was one of the counties most heavily involved in purging the rolls.
Yes.
That ended up leading to them determine that George W. Bush was going to be the next president. And by them, I mean the courts. So this was a notorious county in 2000 during a presidential. Mm-hmm. You look at what happened with Debbie Wasserman Schultz the first time against Tim Canova, where there was a lot of discrepancies with the ballots. There was a lot of discrepancies as to what happened there the first time. Ballots being destroyed, ballots not being kept properly. A lot of unanswered questions there in 2016. Then you look at 2018 when Tim ran as an independent. and the results that happened there. Now, I get it. It's very tough to run as an independent in that district. I do get that. But the results that Tim got, and keep in mind, at this point, he had all this name recognition, and then he ends up getting the exact same number in every demographic, which I believe a statistician said that is about as likely as getting struck by lightning twice. Wasn't that the analogy they made?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So it's like this is a very, very notorious county that has had issue after issue for 20 years.
Right. And it's clear that Debbie had told like the people guarding the polls to not let the media in. Again, they're trying to keep the media out at every turn. Like, it doesn't matter that we have the right to be there, that you have the right to be there if you're just a citizen of a public. But the fact that they said that they have nothing to hide, that this is all fair and square, yet the results are inconsistent with something that would be statistically accurate. Like, that just doesn't happen. That just does not happen. And so we're going to continue investigating this today and following the election integrity issue, because she didn't contest it. Jen didn't contest it. And they, if you don't contest it, then that's it. You know what I mean? But like, it's the fact that these things keep happening, and that Debbie doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to campaign. She doesn't have to debate her opponent. She doesn't even have to recognize her opponent. I asked Jen Perlman if she was even addressed by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she wasn't. She's never been addressed. She's pretended she doesn't exist. At the last minute, she shows up with her people to intimidate protesters and to convince the young ones to vote for her. And what I saw
or to shove one of them,
or to shove one of them. And by the way, I'm sure you guys have heard, but there is a report that was filed of assault against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which is important to have as a receipt in general, because that woman needs to be held accountable for something. I mean, at the very least, striking a minor, a 16-year-old should be, she should be held accountable to that, if she's not held accountable for everything else that she's done.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I know you got to interview. What was the activist's name? The girl that got shoved?
Martina.
Yes, and so you actually got to talk to her directly. I've just seen the TikTok video that she put out, because I'm with it. I understand the TikTok.
You're not a boomer? Okay, good.
That's right. So what happened? Like what kind of in detail did she have to say? Like how did that kind of come to fruition, that whole event?
Yeah, so she was volunteering, obviously, for Jen Perlman, and she was with another volunteer who was the one. He was a gentleman. He was a boy, a young man, and he was the one that was kind of like riling up the Debbie Wasserman Schultz people, saying, "You guys need to vote for Jen Perlman," and blah blah blah. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, of course, comes in and tries to push them out, tries to get the volunteers for Jen out of the way, and in the process she physically shoves Martina and attacks her, and she didn't think much of it right away. She wasn't sure how to react, and then she told Jen, and Jen was like, yeah, that's not okay. She can't do that. She can't be harassing volunteers. And it's ridiculous. I mean, she went after, and this young woman is LGBTQ, a woman of color. I mean, it doesn't like, I'm not leading with the identity politics here, but for somebody who espouses to be pro women of color, for somebody from a party that really loves to throw all these identity politics issues first, to really go after and attack a young woman that was there, 16 years old, fighting for what she believes in, fighting for a candidate. It's really hypocritical of people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who literally use that to attack people, who have used it to attack people like Bernie Sanders and progressives. And, she's like this sort of politician that turns people away from the Democratic Party. And here's the youth that we're trying to gain. And, she just literally physically assaults her.
Well, it's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, just think about being a politician where it's like your job I mean, a big part of your job is acting properly in public.
Yeah.
And to shove a 16-year-old, a young girl, and just not even like that's just natural. You just shove them and not think I'm going to face any consequence for this. And then, by the way, go on to win your next election. Win in quotes, because who knows, what actually happened yet. Yeah. But, that's unreal. And that just goes to show how insanely broken our system is. I mean, did they rig it this time around? I guess we can't say for sure one way or another quite yet, but I can tell you this much. Debbie Wasserman Schultz behaves like someone who doesn't give a hoot what happens in the ballot box, which leads me to think, I guess maybe the fix is in. Yeah. You shove a kid? You got to be kidding me.
And, Ron, yesterday was also another wonderful day of the DNC charade. And so as this is happening, I'm just, watching bits and pieces of what happened at the DNC. And it's just I just don't know about you, but I just feel like we're stuck in this shitty timeline of these writers that decided to screw the last ending of season 20 of America. And we're just they're just no, I don't know how to end it. We don't know how to end it. This is the shittiest plot line we can be stuck in. Bernie Sanders, the day before, going and endorsing Joe Biden in such a way, talking about how awful Trump is, not mentioning anything that the Democratic Party has done, even though they rigged the elections against him more than once.
Well, twice. I mean, this exactly. The way I put it, if 2020, if they tried to pitch it as a series, it wouldn't get purchased because it's just too unrealistic.
Yeah.
like even as a dystopian comedy, they'd be like, oh, come on. No, you're telling me one guy fills up stadiums, another guy can barely put together a sentence, needs his wife to talk for him, stands for nothing, has enough skeletons in his closet that he never needs to decorate for Halloween. And they're going to screw over that guy for the other guy. And the other dude who's in power right now is going to put his own people under martial law, is going to brutalize protesters for a photo op holding a Bible. Come on. That's ridiculous. And then they're going to have a convention where they invite 4 Republicans and give a younger progressive member literally 1 minute. This is just too, come on. No one's going to buy this. This is just too unrealistic.
And then they nominate a self-described top cop as VP while young kids are fighting against police brutality. Yes. It just doesn't get any better than that.
It really doesn't. What is slap? Hey, there's historic civil unrest. We're going to give you the cop. That's what we're going to give you. We're giving you the cop. And there is man, it's almost like when they pick a VP, they want to just completely slap you in the face. They want to slap you in the face. On both, I mean, Republicans and Democrats alike. It's oh, people were celebrating in the streets because of gay marriage. I know we need a religious theocrat to be the running mate for the next Republican. That's what we need. Oh, people are pretty disenfranchised that the Democratic Party didn't deliver on the platform it promised, and now they're going even further to the right with a candidate who's to the right of Obama. People are disenfranchised by that. What should we do? We should get someone to the right of her. We should get someone even further right than Hillary Clinton in the Democratic Party. Let's do that. Now it's there's historic civil unrest because of police brutality. I know. We got a cop. It's just they're trying.
It's ridiculous. And the DNC, I mean, it's like they're reciting the same script, right? They were constantly talking about saving the soul of the nation, and using the same words, every single person. I mean, I get it. Donald Trump is bad, but well, look, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is rigging elections in Florida. Hello. Oh yes, vote Democrat. We're gonna, Joe Biden is gonna fix everything. And I think that's the frustration. By the way, I don't know if you noticed the count of people watching the convention. It wasn't very high.
Yeah,
people are just done.
I reported like I just tweeted because I put it on the PBS, like the YouTube for PBS. And I get it, like one YouTube channel, of course, is not exemplary of all of life. Of course, I get that. But just for a snapshot, there were like, I think maybe 2,000 people watching.
Yeah.
And the like to dislike ratio was like 1,000 more dislikes than likes, just about, at the moment that I tweeted about it. And they had to disable the chat. There was no chat. You weren't allowed to chat.
Yep. Yeah. They can't handle like the public like outbursts of anger because people are so angry. They're like, this is a show. These are a bunch of actors. We have people like Eva Longoria talking to, you know, about poor people's issues, about how we need to come together. What does she or somebody like John Kasich have to do with like working class Americans? What, like, the Congress just went on vacation. What are you talking about here? You guys are having a convention, patting yourself on the back of how much better than Republicans you are, and literally,
well, 4
Congress
Republicans are there. Well, 4 Republicans are speaking. You're telling us how you're different and better than the Republicans when you have 4 Republicans there.
Right.
I mean, that's the part they're like, oh yeah, this is our wide tent. Look at John. I mean, they said with a straight face, John Kasich, he was a Reagan Republican, and here he is with it really speaks to, you know, the Democratic Party and the white tent. No, you know what it speaks to? John Kasich hasn't changed. He still is a Reagan Republican. The Democrats came to him. It speaks to how far right our country really is at the electoral politics level. The people aren't that way.
Yep.
The people aren't that way, but in electoral politics, we are. I mean, I don't even say it's not fair to call the Democrats a center-right party. They're a right-wing party. Calling them center-right is too freaking generous. When you compare it to the rest of the world. They're a right-wing party. So you're saying we have a right-wing party and a neo-fascist party, and at the end of the day, it's like, for the systemic change we need, not that sounds ideal, not that would make me feel better at night, the systemic change we need because the freaking climate's collapsing. I mean, these people that are like, oh, you lefties, you're just such idealists. It's like, you think we're making this shit up, that something's wrong with the climate? You think that, like what, we want the next generation to have a planet to inhabit? You think that, well, the planet's not going anywhere. We are, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you think we're just making this shit up because we feel like it, because we want ourselves to feel better? You think we like what? And somehow like this incrementalist fantasy and just having this elementary substance-based analysis on things somehow makes you an adult? Well, recognizing a systemic problem makes you somehow a child? Shouldn't it be the freaking opposite, Fee? Like, what?
Let's bring Colin Powell into the picture. Why don't we?
What are you saying? What are you saying to the world when you bring some of the architects of the Iraq War to celebrate a nominee who voted for the Iraq War, and you're supposed to be the alternative to the right? This is why most of the world hates us, ladies and gentlemen. This is why. This
is why people don't vote. One, they make you wait 8 hours to vote. They run out of ballots. They tell the youth to vote, and then the votes don't count. Then we attack the youth who are volunteering and trying to change things. We vilify them as Antifa and like all these radicals. And yet you still want them to vote for you. The Democratic Party has spent the last 5 years smearing Bernie Sanders and his supporters, yet they put photos of him, propping him up as another tool to get progressives somehow to unify with Democrats, and they think that's going to do it. That's going to be it. It is ridiculous. And not only that, Ron, but I don't know if you noticed that Bernie Sanders lost delegates in California because, if you recall, that they had initially, during the Unity Reform Commission, voted to get rid of the delegates and super delegates in the first round. But because Biden won the nomination fair and square, they were able to put their super delegates in on the first round. So they voted on the first round. And that's why it shows that Bernie Sanders lost California.
Oh, my God.
people are so livid about that. A lot of my friends who are activists and organizers who work their ass off for Bernie, because Bernie won by a
you're
decent
one
margin.
of them. You're
Well,
one
yeah.
of them. I
Well,
mean,
thank you, but I just mean like these people. I mean that I know too. That I'm sure some of them that you know have worked
Right.
on the ground for the last 5 years, and they saw all the work they did by canvassing and door knocking and phone banking, and then they see that in one fell swoop, super delegates can come in and undo all of that. If that doesn't make you lose faith in the system and doesn't show you that you need radical change, I don't know what will, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, well, I didn't realize. I mean, I hadn't heard about that specifically in California. Yeah. I know that he won by a big margin, despite the fact they did everything they could to prevent that from happening. Despite the fact that those machines that we used had enough red flags that it could have timed a marathon. And we used them anyway. And this was straight from the election committees. I mean, you guys covered it on your show. I covered it on mine. We just read the damn thing. Like, it's right there. Like here's the document. These machines, they can be hacked easily. They can be just, they can be bad. And the supervisor, who was a big pro-Biden guy, was like, I see no problems here. Let's move forward.
Dean Logan. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there was issue after issue. Oh, yeah. And now, the superdelegates come in and they just undo everything. I mean, it is unbelievable. And when you look at it, it is just upholding the will of Wall Street, because who does the most shenanigans during the primary? Democrats do. So they can stop any progressive challengers, which, by the way, not only do they need to, pretty much rig the elections, they also spent $15 million on beating progressive challengers. They spent $15 million, the Democratic establishment did. Who does all the shenanigans in the general? Republicans do. Because that way you have the person who is just overtly pro-Wall Street instead of the person who is subtly pro-Wall Street. Because when you're subtly just pro-Wall Street, occasionally you need to throw the people a couple scraps. Exactly. And that's how the system continues. And, it's very hard when you have that message of, it's the system as a whole. It's not Republican versus Democrat as much as it's us versus the oligarchy, and the system as a whole is what desperately needs to change. And, because people want to entertain this idea, because a lot of people don't pay attention to the general. So when they just see Republicans doing this stuff, they think it's just Republicans who do it. So it's like, if a Democrat's there, it's fine. And I think slowly but surely more people are waking up to the system as a whole. Yeah. But that needs to amplify.
And from what I've seen, Ron, Florida, being in Florida, I'm from Central Florida, and I will be going back there too. And I don't see Biden winning Florida. And, all polls are pointing to Biden winning this election. And Trump has done a shitty job regarding the pandemic, and we all know that. But I'm looking at swing states, looking at states like Florida, states like Wisconsin, where I'm getting information that there is not support for Joe Biden at all, that it's going to go red. When we're looking at these swing states and we see them possibly going red, like that no matter what your little poll says, that's indicative that Joe Biden doesn't have this under the bag. And I think the establishment is so overly confident and arrogant that they think that their little charade of a convention is going to be enough. But it's not, because people are fed up with the system. And I think some people are so angry that it's pushing them away from the Democratic Party into the Republican Party. And that's really dangerous, because obviously we don't want to push people towards further to the right. But at the same time, the Democrats are sort of doing that to people. They're pissing them off. I know at least 5 people who are like, well, I'm going to vote for Trump because fuck the Democrats, right? And this is like,
uh-oh, did you freeze on me? Oh, no, there you are. Fee, can you think of a time where this has happened before? I feel like everything you just said sounds eerily familiar, but I can't put my thumb on it. I feel like we just did this 4 years ago. And I'm with you 100%. And I think that you're seeing the exact same thing happen, because this is an institution. I mean, I'm sorry, the Democrats' first priority is not winning.
No.
Their first priority is making sure the donors are happy. And if they can do that and then second priority, beat a Republican or two, great. If they can't, well, that's okay because the gravy train keeps rolling.
Right.
They are pissing people off. And I think for some people, they're pissing them off to the point that they will turn to the Republicans. Other people, they're pissing them off to the point where they want a solution completely outside of electoral politics, which I think is a good thing because I think direct action is where it's at anyway.
Absolutely.
But, I think that the other big component here, too, though, is that, if Trump gets reelected, I don't see the Nancy Pelosi's of the world feeling all that bad because they're going to be able to see are dollar signs. Yeah. And I hope Nancy loses in November. I really, obviously I'm rooting for Shahid Buttar, but if she doesn't, and if she's still around, they're just seeing dollar signs. Because the fundraising is going to go up if Trump gets reelected because people are going to, because Trump is horrible. I mean, it's absolutely, it is beyond nauseating that Trump is the president. It's disgusting beyond comprehension. And that gravy train is just going to keep rolling, and so it's really, I mean, we need a new party. We just desperately need a viable option.
Yeah, our power isn't in the electorate right now. Even we see that members of the squad oftentimes have to capitulate to the establishment because they have no power. That it's just the same thing. Nancy Pelosi is a gatekeeper of progressives, and trying to defeat her is going to be tough. I mean, I also am supportive of Shahid Buttar, but at the same time, it's a very uphill battle getting her out of office, and people are already trying to figure out who they want to replace her because they know that she could just have someone replace her if she wanted to. And we don't have a fair election system. We don't have a fair shake at getting some progressives in there when the whole system is corrupt as a whole. So for me, it's kind of, I support what people are trying to do at a local level within the Democratic Party, like at a city level and stuff. And I support them and I'm empathetic of it. But at the same time, if we don't build outside, working outside the party with new parties or whatever it is you want to do, and if we don't have direct actions, like whether it's a general strike or whether it's more protests, because
it's got to be both.
Pandemic, it's got to be both. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we need a general strike. I'm hoping that September 1st really happens. I mean, they're saying September 1st is going to be the day. I'm all for it. I've made it clear. I'm like, hey, because, the strike doesn't apply to people like me or people like you. It's our job to be a communication vehicle. And I'm like, I'm here. Let me know what you need. I am here. The microphone is here. I got this big foam freaking ball keeping me company. I got a black cat over there and I'm ready. Like, let me know what I can do as a communication vehicle. But we freaking need a general strike. We need a rent strike. We need the protests to continue. We need to, cross-pollinate with one another. It sounded weird for a second, but you know what I mean? Like, we need to... movements need to cross-pollinate with one another. All of that stuff needs to happen. And we need to build something outside on the electoral level. We need to build something outside of the Democratic Party. It just needs to happen at this point. And let me ask you this, because this is like one silver lining. I actually think if the election were held right now, this minute, Trump would win re-election. I don't see Trump losing. And I'm careful with my words here. I refuse to say the words Joe Biden wins because that would imply this is actually an election between two people. It's not. Right. This election is Donald Trump versus Donald Trump. The only way Donald Trump is not president again is if he beats himself, which he might be able to do. Because of the pandemic, he might be able to do that. If there was no pandemic, there'd be no question Trump's winning again. But because of the pandemic, he might beat himself. And Biden, Lauren Ashcraft said this on the show, and I think she put it perfectly. Talk about failing up to monumental proportions. I mean, Joe Biden, who a 40-year blank suit career, being on the wrong side of nearly everything. You can find footage of this guy. He's a segregationist. He was for the Iraq War. He wrote the Convo. He wrote the crime bill. He was for the Patriot Act. He was for a border wall. Yes, he was. You can find that video. You know, he has said racist things throughout his entire career. He's not convinced on basically any progressive issue. He's against the Green New Deal. He's against Medicare for all. The list goes on and on. This guy might fail up. He was never all that popular. He was given an olive branch by Barack Obama. He was just goofy vice president who did nothing other than make a friendship bracelet. He might fail his way into the presidency. And by the way, everything I just said totally applies for Donald Trump in a different way. General, failed business after failed business after failed business. Oh, and guess what? He even failed his way into the presidency because due to our awesome, awesome system, he got less frickin' votes, but still won the election. So riddle me that, Batman. So, you know, you have this like unpopularity contest once again of people failing up. And I think if the election were held tonight, I think Donald Trump would win re-election. But things change any given week because of the uncertainty of our times. Let me ask you this, because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. If Joe Biden becomes the next president, do you think it will help the cause for a third party? For a new party?
Yeah, I think if Joe Biden becomes the next president, I think that will actually hurt the progressive movement. And I think it will hurt a third party reasoning because it will give hope, false hope in the Democratic Party. They will frame it as, see, we won with a moderate. We won with somebody like that. We wouldn't have won with a socialist. A lot of people who were just getting into the political movement, who were starting to wake up, would be like, well, at least we got rid of Donald Trump. There will be an urge to return to normalcy and to just go back to brunch, so to speak. And I think a lot of that like anger that is so easily built up against Trump, because Trump is a very hateable guy. I mean, he's just, you know, look, everything about him, the way he talks, etc., it makes him a really easy target for people to get behind and rally at. Versus Joe Biden, like it's almost like people just look at him like, "What are you doing?" Like it's a different kind of like it's
a different kind of enemy.
Yeah, he's a different kind of enemy. It's harder to really point to what he's done, even though for us as progressives, we know you just listed everything he's done. But like for the vast majority of people, he's going to talk better. He's going to be more civil. And so I think a lot of that would hurt the progressive movement because we wouldn't be able to build more people into our movement. Versus if Donald Trump were president, people are going to be that like, we're angry. We have to go to the White House. We have to march. People are saying that, oh, well, if Joe Biden still got in there, I would go protest and hold him accountable and we can hold his feet to the fire better. But it's like, can you? When he's still getting this lobbyist money, he's really responding to his donors and Wall Street. He's not responding to the people. So how can you hold his feet to the fire more if you're not out there really hardcore protesting Joe Biden? And I just do not see the progressive movement really coming out. I see a Joe Biden win as driving more people into the party to try to reform it rather than focusing on building out. And that's what I see even now. Like we have all these great progressive organizers and a lot of them are stuck trying to reform the party. And like I said, like, I'm not saying don't have any progressives in the Democratic Party, but what I'm saying is we need to focus on building outside cadres and also the direct action, because that's where our party is at. We need to seize the moment and actually do that, because people are hurting and it's going to get worse. We are going to see evictions. We are going to see more unemployment. We aren't seeing people get anything right now. And so it is a moment to seize. And I just don't think Joe Biden is going to push progressives and people in general beyond progressives to further rebel against the status quo. I think in Trump, in the one good thing he's done for our movement, is shown the ugliness of America, the ugliness of why we have Donald Trump. I think he's the president we deserve, in a sense of he is a reality TV star that pretty much codifies everything that America is, you know, overly rich, overly like everything, just this opulence of bullshit that is just the 1%ers. And he's our president and we have to deal with that. And a lot of people don't like him because they don't want to see what he represents, and it's the ugliness in America, and it's the late stage capitalism that's falling apart and it's inverting in itself. And so I think at the very least, all of the masks have fallen with Donald Trump. We have seen everything more clearly, and not just the Republican Party, but the Democratic Party, how ineffective they are, how they're not an opposition party.
See, I don't think enough people see that, though. That's the one, and I actually think, and I think, you know, like what you just said is totally spot on, as far as like what kind of President Biden would be, and what kind of President Trump is. The lessons that society has learned from that. The one like kind of, you know, other side of that coin is that I think a lot of people, they do entertain this idea that like, oh, Joe Biden he'll hear us out. He's giving us an olive branch. He isn't. He really isn't.
Right.
And I think more people need to see that. And I think like one silver lining, if a Joe Biden does become the next president, I actually think more people will see that when he doesn't give that olive branch. And I actually think more people are going to be open to the idea of a new party if they really see firsthand, okay, we got rid of the orange boogeyman and nothing's getting better. And I don't see people going back to sleep like they did in 2008. I just don't see it happening. Will some people do it? Absolutely. The Alyssa Milanas of the world will go back to brunch. But that's fine because they weren't really part of any movement anyway. Right. There's a certain percentage, and it's, let's be honest, it's rich people. This is a class thing. It's the richest of the rich. And you and I see a lot of that firsthand because we live in the Los Angeles area. We see a lot of the celebrity faux activism and all that nonsense. They just want somebody with a D next to their name to talk nicer because it's easier to explain to their kids while they're watching TV or something like that. That's all they want because they're rich and they have no idea what regular people go through. Those people will go back to brunch. I say that's fine because those people weren't doing anything anyway, other than shaming people to their left and saying very obvious things about people to their right. So whatever. But I do think that a lot of people who want true systemic change, but haven't quite reconciled the fact that it takes a faction outside of the duopoly to get there, I think that if they see a Joe Biden presidency, they'll just have an awakening to that. It's almost like Trump was the awakening that the system's a big problem. Biden could be the awakening that, oh, the system's a big problem, and that includes the Democrats too. It's both of them because it's the money party at the end of the day.
No, I see your point.
That's one silver lining I see.
I see your point, and that could also happen. But I also see the Democratic Party jumping and saying, "Yay, we defeated." The fascists, and look at what Joe Biden's doing, giving you some scraps, maintaining people in the power. So it could go either way. I agree. We neither of us really know.
No, neither of us really know, and we're just discussing it because we both know like it's just going to be an enemy. It's a different kind of enemy, and it's like you need to kind of see, well, what silver linings could help out politically, what silver linings could help out strategically, because again, I mean, you voiced the other side of it very, very well, where it's like, okay, centrism's fine. And then we can project a little further. What could potentially happen? Well, Biden's going to have a very underwhelming 4 years, probably even more underwhelming than Obama. And in 4 years, the GOP is going to have a more dangerous, more competent Trump in the lurk. And that more dangerous, more competent Trump would probably win against whoever the Democratic nominee is. It would presumably be Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors going here.
The scenarios don't look great on either end.
Well, I'm going to be bummed out in November no matter what. Yeah. It's just about, okay, how can we mobilize no matter what happens, and where are the silver linings, depending on what happens one way or another. And I don't have a straight up answer for that yet. I think it's hard to have one answer for that yet, but it's interesting.
It's worth a discussion.
It's worth a discussion. It's worth a discussion. And it is something. It is something. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, sorry. I'm trying to get to the chats here to go through some chats, and I pressed a weird button. Glory Jones, what's up? Thank you for the super chat contribution. Broward County, this is funny. I like this. Broward County is where ballots go to die.
She's right. She's absolutely right. We saw Glory yesterday.
I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, it's not. It's sad, but it's a funny use of phrase.
If we don't laugh during these times, Ron, I don't know. I think we'll go crazy. So please.
It's why I have a job, Fiorella. It's why I have a job. If we can't laugh about this, we'll all go insane. Kate, this is an interesting question, and thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Fee, you can probably address this better than I can. Was there a reason given for Jen Perlman not contesting the election results?
No, not as of now.
And it is just the next day, so it's I mean, there's
I mean, some of her volunteers were saying they expected somewhat similar results. But not directly from Jen herself. I definitely like to touch base with her. I know she's going to go on a trip soon to kind of get away from everything. So
I don't blame her.
We'll hit you back up with that. We're going to look into it.
Totally. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, it's I'll tell you what. I mean, every peek under the hood I've had at progressives that have tried to run for office and break through the mold. It's I'm not going to say who, but like one person just looked me in the eyes and said, Ron, it was the worst experience of my life. And I believed them. And I mean, it is just such a freaking nightmare, especially since you have everything stacked up against you and they try to cheat you as hard as they possibly freaking can.
Yeah. It's exhausting.
I don't blame her for taking that trip. Dudas Priest, any chance we can turn Florida over to the OAS? What's the OAS? Do you know what? Wait, what is that? It's not hitting me. What's the OAS?
The OAS is the organization that checks the election frauds all over the world. So we use the OAS to check in Venezuela. And we said, according to the OAS, the Venezuelan elections were invalid. And that's what we used to try to stage the coup. But Venezuela has far more fair and transparent elections than we do. So that's the irony of it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea, Dudas Priest. I think that is a great idea. Let's do that. Sorry. It's jumping on me. YouTube's doing everything to make me unhappy. Yeah. Nothing new. Robert, what's up, buddy? Thank you very much for the super chat contribution and for the dancing pear. I love the dancing pears. I love pears. I'm a big pear guy.
Pears are great.
What's your favorite fruit?
I like it's tough. I really like pears, but I also like grapes. I'm a grapes person. Yeah. You're a
grape gal, huh? All right.
Gal.
All right. Pineapple gets the gold star for me. I love pineapple. I love freaking pineapple.
You know what? Mangoes. That's
mangoes.
What it is. Mangoes. Oh,
mango. Do you like the dried mango?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you spend an hour talking about how our election system is completely rigged and completely faulty, and it's like it's just a sham democracy, and we have to be so loud that they can't defeat us to have any chance of systemic change. Sometimes you just need to like take a step back and be like, fruit. It's great though, right? I mean, come on. Sometimes you just have to have a mango. Sometimes you just need to take solace in like, I got stoned with my wife and she got to see The Crow for the first time. She's never seen that movie. I got to share that with her. That's
a great movie.
It's a fantastic movie. Very tragic story.
Yeah.
Very tragic story about how, for anyone not in the know, Brendan Lee died during the filming of that movie because a prop gun had an actual bullet in it. And he got shot for real. And very tragic. He was only 28 years old. So, and I didn't know this. I actually looked this up because after I saw the movie, I was like, it's kind of, part of the reason they almost didn't go through with the movie, but his fiance and his family, because he was, it's ironic. The character in the movie was engaged and he was engaged in real life. But his fiance and some other people with the estate really wanted them to finish the movie, in his memory and in his honor. So, So anyway, this is our light talk. This is us. Dude is Priest, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. November's main entree is 1, leftover diarrhea and dumplings, or 2, toasted poo sandwich. Yeah, maybe poo, but it's served on hot toast.
2 shit sandwiches. What can we
2
do?
shit sandwiches. That's Nina Turner kind of made that analogy.
Yeah, she did.
Which that was I was kind of hoping she'd be the I was
You're
hoping
kind of
she'd
praying. Yeah.
Well, I knew it wasn't gonna happen. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like that would have been like, I mean, if I could my fantasy pick, of course, but it's not gonna happen. I knew it wasn't. And then especially when she's like, bull of shit, like, he's not gonna pick you. That's probably B, where can people go to learn more about you?
You can follow me on Twitter, Fiorella_IM, or you can also find me on the Convo Couch on YouTube. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. We'll be in South Florida today, and I'll be in Florida for a few more days covering some election integrity stuff. And then we head back to LA. There's a lot of crap going on in LA right now. We leave and there's like fires and more shootings, unfortunately.
There was a shooting right in our neighborhood.
In our neighborhood,
shooting in our neighborhood. Yeah, I talked about it Monday. There was a shooting. There have been a lot of protests in Pasadena, and yeah.
And the evictions are moratorium that's going to be up soon, and we're going to have to see some actions against that. These landlords are going to go straight to the courthouse. I want to see people blocking it like they did in Louisiana. We need direct actions right now more than anything, you guys. We really, really do.
General strike, September 1st. It's the only way. We got to do it. We got to shut it down. General strike. Guys, check out Fiorella. Follow her on Twitter. Check out the Convo Couch. Tune in. They're doing the Lord's work. You guys are doing the Lord's work. You're being boots on the ground. You're going to these places, and you're showing us what's going on. You're turning the camera on and showing us what's going on. So shout out to everybody with the crew. Shout out to Johnny and Pasta as well. Johnny's so clever and thrifty. I mean, he even brought it up how he finangled his way in there. Like you have your list of people where if you ever stranded on a desert island, like you have your short list. Johnny's on my short list. Like I would just like Johnny would just be like, we'd all be like, we're going to go try to find water. And then when we find it and we come back, Johnny would be like, hey fam, I built a deck. And we're like, how'd he do that? We have a deck now. Johnny built it. It comes in handy, man. Johnny's clever. He figures it out. So thank you for doing what you guys do.
Thank you.
Check out the Convo Couch. Thank you guys for your super chat contributions so much. Thank you, everybody. Kate, Robert, Dudas, Priest. Thank you all so much. You help keep this show on the air. And thank you all for your patronage. You help keep Get Your News On with Ron afloat. If that is of interest to anyone here and you are on stable ground and interested for a pay what you can level, you get all kinds of cool stuff, including a theme song. I'm making theme songs for my patrons. You can get your own theme song if you want it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And that's patreon.com/Ron Placone. And again, that's for a give what you can level. So whatever level you're comfortable with, you get all the same perks as everyone else. I know it's a very troubled time, but if you got an extra $1 or $2 a month, goes a long way. Patreon.com/Ron Placone if you are interested and able. Fee, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you,
Of course.
you guys.
Thank you for checking in. I know you got to get back to it on the grind. So you guys, we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to do another short video. You guys have been enjoying those. So I'm going to be dropping another short video. And then the Get Your News On with Ron stream will be back on Monday. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.